Hello and welcome to this repair tutorial, and today we're going to look at a Cambridge and the model number is A3i. In terms of general specifications, power output is 50 watts per channel RMS into 2 times 8 ohm speakers. Frequency response is 2 Hz to 50 kHz. Total harmonic distortion is 0.05% at 1 watt. For your inputs, you have a phono input which is switchable, and that's 1.75 millivolts for removing cartridge type input. Your CD is 400 millivolts, and then your aux tuner and tape is 200 millivolts. You have individual bass, treble and balance controls, and you also have a nice feature where you can select the gain. So this is here gain or direct selection, bypassing tone control circuits. And then in terms of dimensions, for 30 millimeters wide by 300 millimeters deep and 90 millimeters high, and then the amplifier comes in at 5.6 kilograms. So what was the issue with this amplifier when it came into the workshop? Well, what the customer advised was he'd actually seen the previous A3i repair tutorial stroke modification video which I posted some months prior, and he wanted to have really the same work done. So I'll cover that, but I'll also put a link in the description for the video so you can refer back to it. So here when you look from the top, you can see that there is dust covering the different circuit boards, completely normal, no concern, that's just because of the vent grills on the top. And then on the right hand side, sort of just make it out, this is where you have the input selection switch, where you have the circuitry for the moving magnet type cartridge equalizer stroke preamplifier. And you can just toggle this switch and then it can then become a high level audio input. And then in the middle is the main amp board, and we'll sort of get to that in a moment. And then on the left hand side is the reactance core transformer, and then you kind of just make out the fuse holders. But here what I'm showing is what I showed in the previous repair stroke modification tutorial video for the A3i. This is a service bulletin which was issued by Cambridge Audio back in 1997, and it was really just concerning mechanical hum which could come from this reactance core transformer. So all that they're advising is to switch around 2 of the phases. But again, if you have one of these amplifiers and it's maybe a very early type before the bulletin, you may look at this and wish to make that modification. And then here, if we're just taking a zoom in view, you can see the reactance core. And then on the top, you can see that it's fitted with a thermal fuse, 115 degrees C. And then in terms of modifications, what is it that we're looking to do? Well, the original designer had posted on one of the forum websites a number of modifications which he'd made to one of these amplifiers which would improve the overall harmonic distortion. And these are the different modifications. So the first one is to replace the conventional silicon diodes here in the power supply and to fit Schottky diodes, and then also to replace the silicon diodes here with 10 ohm 1 watt resistors. There's also the requirement to really replace all of the vertically mounted LEDs, and I'll sort of get into that in a moment. And then I'm also sort of highlighting as well the speaker protection relay, which is a nice feature on this early amplifier. And you could also mute the rear speakers from the front panel as well. And you can see, although this is quite an early amplifier in terms of design, it's got a lot of different nice features. So you can see here we've got over temperature protection, over current protection, and also DC protection. And then on this photograph, this sort of highlights that this is a very early amplifier. And the reason why I say that is that the LEDs on later models were raised up from the circuit board. Here you can see that these green LEDs are flush with the main board. And one of the recommendations when replacing the LEDs is to raise them up. And that's what was done on this amplifier. And then here when we look from a sideways view, you can see the original diodes have not yet been replaced. Just towards the left hand side you can see the black speaker protection relay. You can see the individual Sanken audio output transistors, different bias potentiometers left and right, and then you can also see the secondary power supply fuses as well on the board, and these are normally T4 amps, so anti-surge or time delay 4 amp, and they're 5mm OD by 20mm. Now with this amplifier, what you find is the same as what I say about every amplifier, is dry solder joints, because this amplifier is very old and some of these areas of the circuit board have heat related stress points. So what you need to do is to be systematic and just work your way across each one of the circuit boards and just resolder all of these bad solder connections. Now, part of the work was also to replace the two main power supply electrolytic capacitors. And you can see here that these are original types, so these are Rubicon. And then what I've done is I've just fitted brand new Rubicon capacitors, and they should be 10,000 microfarads. So here I've got one of them on test, and you can see that the ESR value is low. It's 0.00 ohms, but you can see here that it's coming in at 8,786 microfarads. So capacitors would continue to work, but they're kind of deteriorating. And you can just kind of make out just a smaller electrolytic just on the left-hand side. What that is just the timing capacitor for the speaker protection relay. Normally after 4 to 5 seconds from switching on the amplifier, it should energize the speaker protection relay and connect the audio output then to the connected speakers. What I found here was that small little timing capacitor had sort of gone off normal value, and it probably took about 8 to 10 seconds. So I've just replaced that then with a brand new Rubicon capacitor just to pull it back to the normal timing period. And then here what we're seeing is the LEDs now have been raised up, and the brand new electrolytic capacitors, the Rubicon ones, can be seen. You can sort of just make out, but we'll see this in another photograph, the replacement speaker protection relay. And then here we take a slightly different view. You can see in more detail. And you can also make out the two preset potentiometers, which are used to adjust the bias. And then on the right hand side, you can have a clear view now of the replacement speaker protection relay. And you can kind of make out the new Schottky Rectification Diodes and the two 10 ohm resistors as well. Now, when you look at doing the bias adjustment on the amplifier, what you're aiming to do here is to measure across the emitter resistor, and you're looking for a bias value of 12 millivolts, and there's a tolerance of plus or minus 1 millivolt. And when you power up the amplifier, leave it running for about 15 to 20 minutes, no speakers connected, no inputs, volume control at minimum, user controls at midpoint. And then after 20 minutes, you can then make the adjustment. Now, the adjustment here just makes small increments, and then you have to wait for the amplifier then to restabilize. You can also see as well, as I've just put a circle around the LEDs, and then you can also see that there's effect on the earlier stage of the amplifier. And then if we step through, you can see here that this is reading 12.10 millivolts, which means that it has been aligned. And then here, prior to the alignment, we were reading 2 millivolts. And this was the same for the other channel, which you'll see in a moment. Now, this is not uncommon. It's not to be concerned about. It just means that over time, maybe the preset potentiometer has become dirty and the resistance has increased, or that the bias value has drifted. Here it didn't drift high, so the output transistors are not being overdriven. It's just lower than what it should be. And as we saw, it's straightforward enough then to bring it back to 12 millivolts. And then here on this photograph, same as what we saw previously, it was very low, so it's down at just above 2 millivolts. Again, after adjustment, we then bring it back up to, in this case, bang on 12 millivolts. When you get it to this value, sort of just leave it running again for about 10 minutes. Don't make any more adjustments, and you should see that the bias value will stabilize out. If it just moves slightly, that's perfectly normal. You're not looking that it would be rock solid. And then here, when we look at the components removed, you can see the original Rubicon electrolytics, the Cambridge Audio labeled speaker protection relay, 24 volt DC, double pole changeover, the small electrolytic, which we spoke about, the original 4 green LEDs, and then the individual diodes. What I'm not showing you is the smaller 1N4007 diodes, but of course those are replaced with the 10 ohm resistors. And then the only thing that sort of remained then was just to put the amplifier on to test, and the amplifier really performed perfectly. You do see significant change in the audio quality after the modifications. So again, as I said, I've put the link for the previous repair tutorial, and in the description it also details the work that has been carried out. So that sort of brings us to the end of this repair tutorial. And again, if you have any questions or you need any help, by all means email audioamplifierservicing@aol.com, and I'll be more than happy to come back and provide any assistance that you may require. So until the next time, I wish you all the very best. Cheers and bye-bye.